guys, welcome. Hope you're doing well. I want to talk a little bit about dissociation in this class before things get started, because dissociation is the research is much better than what it was. We used to think dissociation was nothing but DID, dissociative identity disorder, or multiple personality, MPD, or three faces of Eve, and it's much more dissociation. It's much more of a continuum than we ever dreamed. So there's a lot of good stuff that we can learn about it and how we can help our patients with it. So let me just kind of start with the terminology and explain that. Dissociation is a detachment from reality versus a loss of reality. So the detachment reality means, for example, the two main ones are depersonalization and derealization. Depersonalization, I'm not in my body. My body's here and I'm over here floating around. That's depersonalization. I'm not inside here. Normal people feel like they're in their bodies. I mean, I feel like I'm in my body. It's not the body I'd like to have. Maybe one day I'll get, in that kind of shape, but at least I know I'm in it, right? And derealization, the environment, it's the other direction. The environment feels unreal. Out here, and we're here on a studio with my buddies here, and I know that they're real, but if I have derealization, I'm not sure that they're phantoms or ghosts or just kind of wills of the wisp. That's a loss of reality. That's a detachment from reality. Psychosis, a loss of reality, is I am hallucinating, I am detaching at a level of I'm hearing things that aren't there and this sort of thing. So one is I'm away from reality, doesn't feel real to me. The other, psychosis, I've lost all reality. Obviously, psychosis is more severe than dissociation. And why do we have it? The way that God constructed things post-fall was we had overwhelming affects that we couldn't, the amygdala got blown up. And the way to keep the amygdala from going into psychosis is to give us dissociation. I believe that dissociation is a gift from God to protect people from overwhelming affects that would actually drive them into all loss of reality, which is much harder to deal with. So it's a way to, when people say I went to a happy place, I went to a happy place as a form of dissociation. Kids do it, right? Kids play and think that they're somebody else, or they're a cowboy, or they're a cowgirl, or whatever. And so it's something we've done to get away from something. Usually, it can be what's called the prodromal phase of psychosis as well. So you can help your client that when they're starting to feel either I've lost myself or I'm not sure all this stuff is real, that could mean they're slipping into psychosis. And you need to help them with that while you're working on medication issues and strengthening them, is because then they have some control over it because you're not around all the time. And it really helps them to feel a sense of like potency and power and agency, because you show them this is a phase. And when the phase happens, you start to feel that, what do? You make sure your meds are good, call somebody that cares about you, call your psychologist, your therapist, or whoever. There are some psychoactive drugs that can cause temporary dissociation, such as alcohol abuse, amphetamines, ketamine. They've been shown to cause that. And also it can be a return to traumatic material. When people have found out they've got trauma in their lives, and this is kind of the trauma course, and maybe they didn't know about it, or they knew about it and kind of blew it off and got busy and never dealt with it, when they return to it, sometimes it's so intense, they'll just pull away from it. It's their happy place to stay away from it. So here's some things you can do about it. There's a lot we can do. Number one, sooner is better than later. Sooner is just better than later. Don't wait. When you see that, kind of drop everything else and don't say, well, I'll deal with that because we're dealing with X right now. The sooner you get dissociation, the better you're going to help it resolve. So go right into it, drop whatever you're talking about and get to it. Bring attention to it. Attune to it, here's our word attune, which means to be able to hear the feelings and follow the feelings. And when you've attuned to them, it sounds like you're really scared right now or confused about whether you're here or not or whatever. Once you've attuned and you can kind of see that they're re-engaging with you, call into the dissociation. Call into it. That means to enter that and try to bring them to your world, because their world's not a good place right now. So you've entered their world via tuning, right? You entered their well, but you got to call them into your well, which is healthier than their well, because their dissociation could be a risk of psychosis. And that's when you say things like, I want you to come back in the room now. I'm with you, and I'm going to keep things as safe as I can, because I know you're scared and confused. I want you to come back in the room now because it's safe here. And they'll feel that, and it's sort of like, imagine somebody like grabbing some lifeline in a dark cave and they're pulling the lifeline to get to a place that's safe and warm. Help them become aware of the sensations early. And that's the more prodromal is, okay, I know I'm feeling that again, and I'm feeling like a loss of things. And the more they have that, just the more confidence they feel. Determine if PTSD work will help that. PTSD work can help with dissociation and help them either through cognitive techniques or EMDR or the other ones that are out there. Work with your supervisor, but often that can be a treatment of choice on a small few sessions level. Do a lot of ego strengthening where they feel that they can make choices and they're free and they have resources and they have intelligence. And help them also with abreaction. Abreaction, of course, is a catharsis. And grief comes after catharsis. Catharsis first, abreaction first, grief second. Once the ego is resilient enough, once they sort of have things together, and you feel like the dissociation is not as much of an issue, it's very, very minor, then you can go back to how angry or upset they are with the situation, and then mourning that, letting that go, getting behind it. So you got a lot you can do about that. Okay, so I hope that was helpful, and have a good class.